Good after Good afternoon and welcome to our What's Buzzin at Georgia Tech webinar series. We are so excited that you joined us today. Today we are joined by a very special guest, the director of the Career Center, Dr. Laura Garcia. She is going to be talking about our Career Center and how it's just a great resource and the great programs that we have to support your students here on campus. Our career fair is right around the corner, so we thought that this would be a great time to have her just kind of come in and chat with you all and also answer any questions that you may have. If you have any questions for Laura, please feel free to utilize the Q&A chat box. Once again, if you have any questions for Laura, please feel free to utilize the Q&A chat box, and then we will get to those at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Laura and we'll go ahead and get started.
All right, thank you so much, Tyler, and thank you all for being here today. I always really enjoy the opportunity to be able to speak with parents and families because I hope you know this, but obviously you play a really critical role in the success and support that your student needs as they go throughout their experience here at Georgia Tech. So, and many career questions I'm sure come up for you from your student as they go throughout their experience. So my goal for today's presentation is to give you a high-level overview of some of our resources. So for those of you all that have participated in facet sessions, there may be a little bit of overlap and you may be aware of some resources. However, we do have a couple of new platforms, other tools that can be useful to your student, regardless of whether they're a first year, senior, graduate student, and so on. So again, Laura Garcia, Director of Career Education. So I've worked in collegiate career services for about 15 years now. And my role within the Career Center is student facing. So I oversee a team of career development advisors and career educators. And these are the individuals that work with students individually, provide workshops and other resources to help your student get to wherever it is they may want to go in their career. So I'll give you that brief overview of the Career Center for those of you all that may not be familiar with who we are, what we do. We'll talk about that as well as those top resources that I mentioned. I am going to talk a little bit about the career fair and share a few career fair prep tips. So our All Majors Career Fair will be a little bit less than 2 weeks away now. So Tuesday and that Monday, Tuesday, February 7th and 8th. We're also partnering with the College of Design on Wednesday, February 9th to help organize and manage that career fair, which is primarily focused on the School of Architecture and City and Regional Planning, but many of our departments and schools will also have boutique career fairs. So even if your student is participating in one of those versus the All Majors Career Fair, I think they'll get a lot potentially, and hopefully you'll get a lot too from some of the tips that I'll share today. Also a few other major events that can help your student regardless of whether or not they plan on going to the career fair. Lastly, I do want to talk about the Georgia Tech Competitive Candidate Formula. This is something the Career Center rolled out this year and we incorporate into our GT 1000 and 2000 content. If you're not familiar with GT 1000 and GT 2000, it is an optional first year seminar course. It has a variety of activities, but career is a core component of those courses. It is optional, but anywhere between about 65–75% of students will take it. Naturally, that's a really great opportunity to get in front of students early, and we want to take advantage of that and helping students to understand from day one what are some things that they can work on from day one as a student to ultimately achieve long-term career success. We'll go through that. All right, so here's a picture of our building on the right-hand side. So we are located in the Bill Moore Student Success Center. Some students don't know where we're located, but I always tell them if you know where Tech Tower is and you know where the football stadium is, we are just right in between. We're actually attached to the football stadium. So even though we are a student success center, Clough and the student center that will be completed, I believe in this May, those tend to be more student hubs. So in our office, we have admissions, financial aid. So I wish we had more student traffic. That's sometimes I think the reason why students don't always know where we are. That can help you if your students have questions. Please just direct them that we're right beside Tech Tower. They'll be able to easily find that. So we provide a lot of services for students. So of course, career advising in a variety of capacities. We will assist students with major and career exploration. So if your student is confused with what they can do with their major or perhaps if they are thinking of switching and they're concerned about that, they want to talk about perhaps additional majors at Georgia Tech, know that we can also be a sounding board for them. We provide a variety of opportunities for students to connect with employers, so absolutely through our career fair, but we also have employers host resume reviews, both in person and virtually. This Friday and next Tuesday, we're helping to arrange virtual mock interviews with employers as well. There are a lot of other initiatives that we try to make that, try to bridge that gap between students and employers. We also manage the experiential education programs, the co-op and internship registration process. So it'll vary a little bit year to year, but roughly 75% of Georgia Tech students engage in a co-op or an internship during their time at Georgia Tech. And for co-ops, you have to register those internships through our office in order to maintain current student status, and you go through an audit course. Now for internships, depending on when it falls in the school year, so say if it's over the summer, students potentially, depending on their degree or major, don't necessarily have to register their internship with us, but we strongly encourage students to do so for a variety of different reasons. Number one, any income that they earn through that internship, if it's paid, doesn't impact their FAFSA or financial aid. It's also an excellent way. The internship course that's attached to that really helps students to understand what it takes to be successful in the role. So you register for the course. It guides you through setting performance goals with your supervisor. We provide a midpoint check where the supervisor and the student gets together, evaluates their performance, and we ask a variety of questions for the students at the end, so that way they can reflect on the experience and think about what they've really taken away. So this spring, we've registered over 500. I believe last fall we had over 700. So quite a few students utilize this, and it's not just, you know, engineers that do co-ops. We have co-ops in all of our colleges and schools, as well as internships that are registered. So here are just a couple of the topics that we can talk to your student about. So absolutely, we help students with resumes and interviewing. That's usually what we're most known for, but we can help with all aspects of the job, co-op and internship search, whether it comes to, you know, identifying potential employers, potential job titles or functions that they could pursue. We can also assist students with cover letter writing, networking, LinkedIn, salary negotiation, and other questions, but I wanted to be sure that you all were aware of the common topics that we often discuss with students. One thing to note, because depending on your background, and if you attended college and interacted with your Career Center office, something to be aware of here at Georgia Tech is that graduate school is more served out of our pre-graduate and pre-professional advising office. So think of the Career Center as very much employment focused. So getting a job, getting an internship, getting a full-time role. Naturally, there's overlap between the two, and we actually share the same office suite, and we have a great relationship with that office. But if your student is bringing up more specific questions about graduate school, just know that that's something unique to Georgia Tech, and there's an office that specifically serves students that are pursuing those opportunities. So here's just a quick overview of some of our supports, other resources that we provide for students. One thing to note, so we do provide drop-in hours from 2 to 4, Monday through Friday in the Career Center. So if you have a student question pop up where maybe they have an interview that's happening the next day, or something else that needs to be addressed right now, please do encourage your student to stop by our drop-in hours. In particular, leading up to the career fair, our individual student advising appointment schedules can get very busy, but we always leave these open drop-in hours. So any student questions that need to be immediately addressed, or if they just want to have a quick check-in, a quick chat about something, know that those are available from the first day of class to the last day of class. We do help to facilitate our all majors career fair as well as on-campus interviews. Right now, obviously, we're still managing and navigating COVID, so we're not finding as many employers participating on-campus interviews. They're still doing more virtual interviews, though we're starting to see employers come back on campus a little bit more, and likely that will continue on into the fall. We do also have access or help to manage our campus closet. So our campus closet provides professional attire for students who want to check out those items for free. It's heavily utilized right before the career fair, and it can also be utilized for other interviews that are coming up. So students check out items for free, return them. There's no cost at all. And more information about that is on our website. And please also know that if your son, daughter, your student graduates, if they're still, struggling with some career questions or need additional support, we do serve alumni up to 2 years after graduation, and they would utilize Careerbuzz in order to schedule an appointment. So it's not just from, day one until graduation. We're still here to support students with whatever needs may come up. So you heard me mention Careerbuzz likely at this point. So Careerbuzz is our main portal, and we utilize it to do a lot of different things. So many students think of it as the job posting site, which absolutely it is. It's where we will share all co-op, internship, and full-time job opportunities that come to our office. So students can filter through that. But we also use this platform for students to schedule appointments to meet with our advisors. This is also what they use to schedule interviews with employers. They can make their resume visible to employers who want to search and potentially message students about different opportunities. And we'll drive students to go into Careerbuzz to access our webinar links, learn more information about our workshops, as well as our major career fairs. A couple of resources I wanted to be sure that you all were aware of are these top 5. So number 1, our resume guide. So this resource has been updated and created over the past year. It has several resumes, in-depth tips. So certainly for those students that are preparing for a career fair, they do need to have their resume critiqued. At minimum, at least go through the guide and start thinking through their formatting and the content that they're sharing. But this can also be obviously used by students who are not participating in the career fair. We do have first-year student examples, we have master's level examples, and this is something we're going to continue to build out as well as time goes on. So please be sure to share that with your students. Sometimes I'll meet with students who are struggling finding an internship, co-op, or full-time job, and the first thing I'll ask for is a copy of their resume. And unfortunately, sometimes when I open it up, I'll go, I wish you would have come to me early. You probably spent all this time, energy, and effort, and I'm seeing a couple of typos, or maybe the formatting is looking a little bit off, and that might be the reason why you're not moving forward in the process. So please be sure that you're aware of this and share it with students as they start getting towards the application process. Another platform that we launched this fall is something called Big Interview. So Big Interview allows you to practice online, either with industry specific or commonly asked interview questions. And one really interesting feature of this platform is that you can record your video responses to interview questions. They can actually send it to people. They could send it to you if they wanted your feedback. It even has a rating scale. So if they wanted to send it to, previous supervisors or other mentors to get concrete feedback on how well they responded to questions, they have the ability to do that. It also has a really unique AI feature. It'll even track eye movement if you enable that. So it'll check that. It will give you a rating on how well you are doing. It'll also count the number of filler words that students have, and other things that they may not be even aware that they're doing, but they can record it, go back and review it, as well as send it out to other people. We also often refer students to the LinkedIn University Alumni tools. So you all may be aware of this, but on LinkedIn, if you search for Georgia Tech, once you search for that, you'll see the institute's profile, but there's a tab on there that many times students aren't aware of, the Alumni tab. So any Georgia Tech alumni, their profile will be tied to that particular tab, and you can filter through alumni profiles using a lot of different fields. So students will come in and say, well, what do physics, students do after graduation? Students can filter Georgia Tech alumni by that particular major, and it populates top employers, where they live, top skill sets that they need. So it's really interesting, and it's also dynamic data. So it's live. So as folks, change careers, as they change roles, develop additional skills, this is data that changes over time. And you can also filter by graduation year. So if you haven't seen it before, definitely check it out. That can be helpful for students exploring different options that are out there. We also have a resource called Firsthand, previously known as Vault. So our industry guides give really in-depth information about popular pathways. We also have some technical interviewing guides, case interview guides. So if you have students that are interested in going into consulting careers, finance and need technical finance interview practice, we do have great information there, as well as great blogs as well. And Type Focus. Type Focus is a newer platform that, again, we launched this past fall. This is excellent for students that are really trying to understand their personality, their interests, their values and skills, and how that might tie into a variety of different career paths. Here's a screenshot of what it looks like when students log in. I really like how it walks you step by step, helps you to kind of reflect on you as an individual before it starts tying into potential careers that could align with your personality, interests, and values. Do be aware that this is a platform that students do have to submit a Georgia Tech specific code. So this information is down here, and Tyler, of course, will get this presentation. So please feel free to share this information with your student and just follow those steps that are outlined here so they can go in, access it, and go through the steps. So interviewing help, of course, we already talked about Big Interview, but I also wanted to make sure that you were aware that we do provide mock interviews through the Career Center, and through Careerbuzz, they can schedule a mock interview to meet with one of our advisors. And I oftentimes encourage students to practice early before they have, an interview scheduled. You all may know this from your own professional experience, but many times when you get offered an interview, it might be that week or within 1 week. Usually it's not scheduled out multiple weeks in advance. But depending on the time of year in which, the student receives an interview, so are hundreds of other students. So our appointment calendars may be booked. So this can be an excellent proactive activity you encourage your student to engage in. So that way they understand it, they've had that practice, and feel confident when they get into the real, situation. We also offer mock interviews with employers each semester. Right now, obviously, due to COVID, there's a variety of issues with getting employers to campus, not only for on-campus interviews, but for mock interviews. They're not coming on campus. For actual interviews, it's even more challenging to do in-person mock interviews. So in light of that, this spring we've done virtual mock interviews. So we actually just arranged, I think it's about 350 or so odd students to meet with employers, and students registered for a mock interview using Careerbuzz, and they signed up for one just like they would for a typical on-campus interview. That process is closed. However, this is something we're going to offer each semester. And right now we're offering virtual resume reviews. I'll show you some additional information coming up in just a minute here. But again, all opportunities to connect with employers are not over. Please know that there are some other ones coming up, and this will continue to be offered each semester. It's open to all students, regardless of class year, regardless of major. So as a parent, as a family member, again, as I mentioned earlier, you play a pivotal role when it comes to a student's career journey. And when it comes to choosing a major, when it comes to choosing that career path, it's very challenging for students. It likely was very challenging for you all individually as well. And I think sometimes when we think of that career development piece, it's I pick a major, the major pipelines me to this career, I pursue that career for the rest of my life. Sometimes I think individuals think in that particular frame. However, in the Career Center, we oftentimes see what you see over here in this graphic on the right, where students come in, maybe they have a major chosen, they take a class, learn about another major of interest, potentially they change it, or while they're in a course, they learn about a new in-demand career of interest that they could still use with their particular major. They participate in perhaps a career fair or another networking event that resulted in an internship in a field that they did not necessarily initially intend to pursue when it came, to day one here in their time at Georgia Tech. As you know, with COVID, there are a lot of external factors that may impact ultimately what students choose to do after graduation. So Just thinking about 2020, any individuals that were looking to work in the hospitality industry, travel, music, arts, entertainment, it was virtually impossible to find a career at that particular time. There were massive layoffs. So you have to be agile, you have to be able to pivot. And that's what we're trying to encourage students to do, to go out, get these co-ops, get these internships, and to be open in their exploration. It's perfectly fine if students think day one, I want to be an electrical engineer. They choose to major in that, and by all means choose to pursue that after graduation. We don't encourage students to do anything, beyond what they intend to do, but more so just be aware that it's not as linear sometimes as we might think it may be. So a great way to partner with us on that is please encourage their students to network in informational interviews, by engaging in student activities, professional associations. Even if they're not sure what benefits they will gain from them, the more that they put themselves out there, the more likely they're going to start gathering information about different industries, possibilities that are out there that could lead to future opportunities. Experiential learning is critical, whether they engage in a co-op, an internship, research, part-time work, job shadowing is also very helpful. And for a couple of reasons, I want to be sure to harp on this piece. So based on our data, students that engage in either a co-op or an internship, on average per year, their starting salary is about $5,000 higher than students who do not engage in these activities. You all, probably know from your own life experiences, many raises are based on that baseline future amount. So it's exponential, the impacts that not having a co-op or internship could potentially have on students. Again, if they get to graduation, they didn't have the ability to participate in these things, they can still be successful, and salary is not everything. But our studies show, the students that engage in these opportunities tend to have higher employment outcomes, and there are other positive outcomes as well. Please also encourage students to engage in research, independent projects, maybe some intro courses if they're exploring different careers they may want to pursue, or if they're potentially considering changing a major. So I do want to point out our career fair that's coming up, some other upcoming events, and touch on just a few quick prep pieces that may be helpful for you to pass along to your students. So as I mentioned earlier, our All Majors Career Fair is going to be Monday and Tuesday, February 7th and 8th, from 11 to 6 p.m. in the Camish. So that's our basketball arena, and you'll see the picture over here on the right-hand side. We do also help to arrange with other departments across campus, identify career fairs that are going on. So if you go to the Career Center's website, click on events, career fairs. If obviously we're helping to manage the College of Design career fair, but there are other more niche fairs like College of Computing. We'll compile every fair that we know of in this one feed. So feel free to check those out. We don't manage all those fairs, but we do try to be a central place where students and others can find this information. Tomorrow, to help prepare students for the career fair and to help them feel more comfortable when they go up and introduce themselves to employers, we are hosting a mock career fair in partnership with one of our first year Georgia Tech student organizations called Georgia Tech Suit Up Professional Preparation. It'll be in person tomorrow afternoon from 1 to 4 in the Klaus Atrium. If your student plans on participating in the career fair, please encourage them to go out and practice. It's a low pressure event. It's exactly what it sounds like. You practice, get that feedback again, so when you get in the real situation, you feel a little bit more confident. So we've already held our in-person resume reviews, which was last Thursday and Friday, January 20th and 21st. But right now we are in the sign-up process for virtual resume reviews with employers. So students log into Careerbuzz, and everybody has received, unless if they've opted out of email communication, how to sign up for these. But details are all in Careerbuzz. They would just search for the event, resume reviews. All of the instructions on how to register for those are in the event description. But we have well over 800 slots that we are helping to arrange right now. We're about at 50%, so I can just about guarantee your student can sign up to meet with an employer to get their resume reviewed. So please, please, please encourage them to do that. The deadline to register for that will be this Sunday, January 30th. So if you have a student who is preparing for a career fair, there are a couple core things that I would just kind of run down and check in with them on to make sure that they're prepared. So number one, have they had their resume reviewed? Did they review the resume guide? Do they have several of these printed off and ready to go? Do they have them in a professional portfolio that they're ready to hand to employers during this event? Shortly after the career fair, many employers will also tell the students, go and apply, on my website. So if it's not polished, it's not prepared and ready, they're going to be scrambling. So bare minimum, they need to make sure that they've got their resume ready to go. They need to understand who is at the fair. So they shouldn't show up and plan on figuring out who to talk to at that event. It can be overwhelming. We've got well over 100 organizations that are participating over the course of 2 days. And over the course of 2 days, there are different employers on Monday than employers that are on Tuesday. So know that it isn't that the employer will participate over the full span over 2 days. There are 2 days to accommodate the sheer number of employers, who want to recruit your student. So it's an excellent opportunity. Please encourage your student to go ahead and start researching them. When students log into Careerbuzz, they would search for the career fair. It lists every single employer that has registered, and students have the ability to filter by employers who are hiring for co-ops, for internships, for full-time. They can filter by employers hiring their major. A lot of different filters that they can go through, but it does take a little bit of time, energy, and effort, but it's worth it. Because if you show up, it's a big arena, you aren't prepared, you don't know what they are hiring for, it just won't make the best impression. The feedback that I oftentimes receive from employers to communicate back to students what they should do to best present themselves during a career fair is to understand a little bit about who the company is, what are they hiring for, and to think through what that particular student may be interested in pursuing. Internship, co-op, what's the job function? This isn't necessarily an opportunity for you to, just show up and ask, hey, so what does your company do? You've got to think about it on the flip side as an employer. If I'm meeting, dozens of students in a day, I'm trying to fill a job opportunity, who would you be more impressed by? The student that came up and said, hey, I'm Laura, so what do you do? Versus, hello, I'm Laura Garcia. I'm a fourth year mechanical engineering student. I'm doing A, B, and C. I was so excited to talk with you all today because I think your work doing A, B, and C is so fascinating. Can you tell me more about it? Can you imagine? You can see the difference there, but students don't always know that that's the kind of expectation some employers may have. I'll give you a sample introduction, again, that you're more than welcome to share with your students on the next slide. And also, please help the students to understand the expectations around career fairs. So for our all majors career fair, we do require business professional attire. Again, students can check out items for free from our campus closet. So we require this for a couple of different reasons. Number one, we've done surveys of our employers and they prefer business professional attire. Sometimes I'll get questions from students, or some folks will say, well, why do you require that? I don't care if someone wears a suit, but I think of it more so as dressing for an occasion. So if you think about, if you go to prom, you dress for that occasion. And sometimes I like to think about it as, this is your uniform essentially for the day. So how do you identify a fireman? By their uniform. How do you identify, a police officer? By their uniform. So how can they identify you as a potential professional if you don't show up in your uniform? So it's a uniform for a day, and it's something that they'll need to be able to understand and potentially wear depending on future interviews that they may go through. When students are doing their research, here are a couple of the key areas that students should be aware of that they should investigate. They should be coming up with a short list of who they want to spend their time talking with, because students will have limited time. We very much realize that students have classes that are happening, that Monday and Tuesday. That's why we have such a large span of time available for students and employers to connect, because we recognize they may be running in between class. But the more the pre-work that they do, they can maximize the time that they have instead of walking in, going, who do I talk to? What do I say? It can be very overwhelming. And we have a couple of resources that are linked down here that can help you as you guide your student. So here's another model that you can share. So introducing yourself to employers, that's one of the most intimidating things that students indicate that they're afraid to do when it comes to the fair. They go, so I'm here, I showed up. Now, what do I say? What do I do? So the way that I think about it is this model. First, state who you are, what you've done, what you're doing right now that's relevant, and what you're excited about your next step. So a reminder to students is to smile, state your name, your major, your class year, a little bit about your background. So either classes you're taking, skills you're developing, student involvement, if you've done an internship, co-op, or other work, you could go ahead and mention that, and then have a solid conclusion or end on a question. So why are you talking to that individual? So here's an example of what it could look like as a student. Hello, I'm Laura Triana. The employer would reply back, hi Laura, I'm Jane, it's nice to meet you. The student goes on to say, it's nice to meet you too. To share more about my background, I'm a first-year student studying business administration with a minor in French. Outside of school, I work part-time at Ace Hardware, assisting customers, helping with the cash register and maintaining inventory. I also oversee communications for the French Club, which has helped me hone my written communication and promotional skills. These experiences have confirmed my interest in marketing. When I was researching more about Newell Rubbermaid, I noticed you have a brand marketing internship role open. I'd love to learn more about the position and what you're seeking from a candidate for this role. A couple of other tips that you can share with the student is to ask questions, again, dress for the occasion, and just show curiosity about the other person. You can really stand out from other students that are, introducing themselves and meeting those employers by questions alone. Because if you said, I looked in Careerbuzz and I was reading through the job description and you mentioned A, can you tell me a little bit more about that? That sounds really interesting. You can just have a very dynamic conversation if you put forth that extra effort to research. So I do want to give plenty of time for questions. So I want to end kind of high level talking about that competitive candidate formula that I mentioned earlier that's been incorporated into our GT 1000 and 2000 courses. So from day one, we want students to understand big picture. These are the factors that if you put them together will help you to become a top pick for competitive careers in graduate schools. So number one, obviously academics will always be students' top priority. We encourage students to aim for a 3.0 or above. GPA is not everything, but it is something. So even thinking about Careerbuzz, employers have the ability to limit students from applying to their opportunities if they do not meet certain GPA criteria. The most common one that we see listed is a 3.0, but there are different standards. For consulting, sometimes it's a little bit higher. It might be a 3.2, it might be a 3.5. There are some industries who don't really care about the GPA, and there's no restriction to prevent you from applying. But I like to give students a goalpost to aim for, so they've got something to kind of keep in the back of their mind, and also sometimes to normalize a little bit for some students. Some students get so fixated on GPA that it's, oh no, I have a 3.8, I'll never get a job. No, GPA is not everything to an employer. It is something, and it's important, but it's not everything. Regardless of the major that students select, there are a variety of great career opportunities that are out there. Leadership. Leadership is critical, and some students may be more intimidated by this versus others, but either way, students need to get involved in something. It could be a student group on campus, it could be a community organization, but again, students who struggle in finding employment, this is a common factor that we've identified where they didn't get involved in anything. And you've got to think about it from an employer's perspective. If all they see is you studying, and a great GPA, that's great, but there's no other involvement that might challenge you where you're forced to develop relationships, maybe tackle a project or do something like that, and then another candidate does, naturally they have an advantage over you. And conversations that I've had with employers about why they view this so importantly, and what's been shared with me is that this is what they do to evaluate people skills. That if I have, say if I'm hiring someone to work with my clients, I want to see that you're involved, you're working with a lot of different people, because they believe that if they don't see student involvement, maybe they don't have as strong of a people skills. So it doesn't mean being president or vice president. Students can lead from any level, but please do encourage them to get involved in something. It's great for them both personally as well as professionally. And lastly, they need experience in some way, shape, or form, whether that is an internship, a co-op, or research. Is an excellent way for students to test drive different industries, different job functions, to find what really resonates with them and fits their values, their personalities, their future career goals. And we encourage students to do one or more before you graduate. Now, as they think about the experiences they could engage in, I encourage them to think about kind of that end goal. So if you really want to go into research and development, if you really want to go to graduate school, by all means prioritize research, because that's likely what they want to see most, when it comes to your application, to your resume. Now, if you plan on going immediately into industry, you need to prioritize co-ops and internships. They want to see that you've gained hands-on experience outside of the classroom. All of these experiences are valuable, and they're not mutually exclusive, where if I do a co-op, I can't do research. But depending on the student, their major, their capacity, other factors, they may not be able to do everything. And we certainly want to be mindful of mental health, their well-being as they go throughout their experience, but they need to engage in something, and that's something they'll have to navigate. As they're going throughout this experience, they're going to gain tons of skills from communication, teamwork, leadership, equity and inclusion, critical thinking, technical skills. It's not just the academic major that employers focus on or graduate schools focus on. Also leadership and experience that they'll want to see. And also students will be asked when it comes to interviews to demonstrate these skills. Package that all together, that's ultimately what's going to result in them being more of a top pick for competitive careers and graduate schools. So at that, I'll go ahead and stop the formal presentation. I do want to make you aware of our program guide. So all of our upcoming workshops, if you scan this QR code, it'll take you right there. But it's also listed on our main webpage, which is career.godtech.edu. You'll see our program guide, resume guide, and many of the resources that we talked about already today. But without further ado, I'll go ahead and stop right there for any questions that you all may have.
Great, thank you so much, Laura.
Would you like me to stop sharing my screen?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let me get back.
We have a couple questions for you.
Okay. All right.
So just for any parents that or family members that may have joined us late, what services are available to take students after graduation? Does the Career Center still support students even after they graduated?
Great question. So the Career Center supports students up to 2 years after graduation, but the Georgia Tech Alumni Association has an excellent Alumni Career Services office that provides a variety of different resources, coaching information as well. So even beyond the 2 years, know that Georgia Tech still provides Alumni Career Services for students.
Awesome. And they would do that through Careerbuzz?
Yes, so students, even after graduation, alumni 2 years and 2 years and less have access to Careerbuzz. So they need to continue searching for jobs. They can do that on the site. Beyond that, they would work with the Alumni Association for more advanced job opportunities at this time. But yes, they would have access to all of our job postings. They could continue to go to our career fairs, engage in other activities through our office, including advising.
Yeah, I think that's a really good benefit, even just like the fact that you said that alumni can still attend career fairs. I feel like that's maybe something that's not utilized as much, but that's something that we do offer. So I think that's awesome. Could you please explain the true definition of what a co-op is, and also maybe tap into the financial technicalities about financial aid and, pay the bill, or what that means?
Sure. So co-op and internship, one thing that I think is important to know is that within the Career Center, Andrea Comshaw is our director overseeing our co-op, internship and experiential education programs, and she works closely with IT at Pounds, both of which manage the full process. So if there are very specific questions, know that you can always reach out to that team. But broadly, co-ops are 3 rotations where you work full-time, go to school. Work full-time, go to school. Sometimes common questions or concerns that are expressed by families or parents often are, well, what if it takes 5 years for my student to graduate? On average, we see it take potentially 1 additional, semester for students, about 4.5 years to graduate. It really just depends on how many credits the student brings in and the sequence in which they find that particular opportunity. So it's all about the rotation. Students do have the ability to get a co-op designation on their degree. And sometimes I'll get the question about what's the difference between the two, what's the benefit? So co-ops are with the same employer for 3 full rotations. You don't rotate between employers. So you get a very strong in-depth knowledge of that particular industry, major, and area. So some employers, in particular in the engineering field, really like to see that because you get a chance to get in-depth knowledge and skill sets within a particular area. Now, internships, you could also do it 3 times if you wanted to, depending on the sequence of your program. There's not really a restriction there, but internships could be with different employers. There doesn't have to be a set rotation like what we're discussing here with co-ops, where it's schoolwork. So that's another distinguishing factor. With financial aid, it depends on the individual student situation. Now, the reason why I encourage every student to register their internship or co-op is sometimes these internships and these co-ops can be highly lucrative. So in particular, engineering, computer science, these STEM-focused internships, because there's such a need for talent in these particular fields, salaries are higher to try to secure students to work for this employer versus another employer. As a result, if you're paying a student a significant sum over a summer or during one of those co-op rotations, it can impact students' FAFSAs because it's showing as an income. Now, if it's attached to a particular course, that removes it from impacting your financial aid. But I would encourage your student to attend one of our co-op and internship registration workshops. We offer them each semester. Through Careerbuzz, students also have the opportunity to meet with one of our co-op and internship liaisons, either ITEA as well as Andrea, so that way they could talk through their individual situation.
Great, thank you so much, Laura. Will employers at the upcoming career fair also have internships and co-op opportunities on site available?
They will. There's a mixture of both full-time co-op and internship. So there's always a pretty big mix between the two. And in the past, I would say probably more than 5 years or so ago, the spring tended to be more co-op and internship heavy, but I'm finding both fairs are co-op and internship heavy. So depending on the industry or field, I've actually seen a significant shift to where employers are putting co-ops and internships even more so in the fall than they ever did in years past. And I think really what it comes down to is a competitive talent market where many employers believe if they're first, they'll get the best talent. That's not how it really plays out. I've got tons of opinions I won't share right now, but students have multiple opportunities to get in front of employers. Some employers just recruit in the spring, some employers just recruit in the fall. The key message that I convey to students is to be proactive. Go to the fall fair, even if you don't think you need it yet. See what it's like, experience it, learn what employers are hiring with your major, learn about these different industries and opportunities. And then you can ultimately decide if you want to apply or, again, the world of work is a dynamic place. So there's always going to be new clients or new demand for a product. So even if students didn't attend a fall career fair or didn't get an opportunity, even though they applied or interviewed, there are still employers that are coming to the spring. So the key thing to convey to students is to engage, to show up, to apply, put themselves out there right now. And I feel the need to share this. in the world of social media, in the world of kind of touting success and putting forth, the best image of yourself, students have a huge issue with imposter syndrome, thinking that everybody else has it together, everybody else got to work at this top employer, I don't have something yet. And it's difficult. It's very difficult for our students. We have this conversation all the time that your feelings are valid, but that's not really the reality. There are plenty of opportunities that are out there. Some folks are going to get it first. Sometimes it'll be a little bit later, but this is just one of many future jobs that they'll pursue. Again, the world is a dynamic place. There are always opportunities that come up, and even beyond the career fair. Again, Careerbuzz gets updated with new jobs every single day. So they don't get one thing, know that each day brings new opportunities.
Great, thank you again. Is there a way to filter in Careerbuzz for internships that do not have a GPA minimum? The hard cutoff is difficult for students who got off to a rough start, doing COVID or virtual classes and such on and so forth.
I don't believe you can filter by that, but I will say when you look, I'll double check, I'm not 100% sure, but when students are going through and looking at opportunities, if they open something up that requires a certain major, maybe they require it to be a junior to apply to that particular internship co-op opportunity, it'll indicate why a student can't apply. So it'll say if it's a GPA issue, if it's, we need you to have additional schooling, be junior status before you can pursue this opportunity. So students will see that and they can scan through. But if you want to follow up with me, my email is laura.garcia@godtech.edu. If you don't mind sharing kind of your contact information, I can investigate and follow up and share that answer with you. And I'll drop that in the chat.
Are international students at a disadvantage in the career fair or job opportunities or even internships or co-ops? How does the Career Center help international students?
So that's a loaded question. The reason why I say it's a loaded question is that a lot of it depends on external factors, namely U.S. immigration law, which will change. There is a cap on the number of H-1B visas that are allowed each year, which sometimes may impact certain employers and their willingness to sponsor students, or whether it's for OPT or CPT. Now, I don't want to get too far in depth when it comes to OPT, CPT, because our Office of International Education, those are the experts. They are monitoring U.S. immigration laws and how that impacts employment. They've got some great OIE newsletters that are out there that I think are important for you to be aware of, your student to be aware of. But I would say yes and no. So there are employers that will participate in the career fair that sponsor, and that will be indicated that they sponsor. We like to make sure that that information is available and provided to our international students. Depending on the industry or area, it is more difficult to find employers who sponsor for a couple of different reasons. So if your student has a STEM certified degree, we're finding that those students tend to have more opportunities for internships, co-ops, or full-time employment, just due to the nature of the STEM extension, where essentially an employer could have 3 opportunities to put students through the H-1B lottery and potentially work with that student for 3 full years, where hopefully they would get that H-1B visa that could continue full-time employment. If they do not, again, still they have 3 years. Otherwise, they only have 1 year of full-time employment using OPT if they don't have a STEM certified degree. Now, what I would convey to international students and their parents is that they need to be very familiar with OPT and CPT, and they have to be extremely proactive in pursuing employers who sponsor. But do keep in mind, there are some industries that unfortunately there are just certain regulations that prevent you from pursuing them. A good example from a few years back, I don't remember the specific decision that came out, but consulting was heavily impacted, where international students were required to be out of a domestic office 90% of their time or more. For some consulting roles that had, kind of 90% travel, you're only in the office for 10%. That kind of decimated that industry. for international students. I don't know the current status of that, but that's why I think it's so important for students to be proactive, pursue employers who have sponsored in the past. Also, if they do have a STEM certified degree, thinking of how to advocate and educate some employers. When it comes to recruiters, not all of them are experts in OPT, CPT law, so you have to be your own advocate as well and demonstrate your value and demonstrate and communicate that, okay, so maybe you don't understand this, but let me educate you on what I can do, and kind of pursue it that way. But it's a challenge for international students. I will not pretend that it isn't, due to a variety of factors. We are here to support international students, whether it's individual advising. We provide information and resources like Going Global. We provide resources. We provide workshops each semester. So 2 that are happening is job searching for international students, one of which we already did earlier in the semester. We've got another workshop that you can save the date for that you'll see in our program guide coming up. That I think is also enlightening and helpful for students to understand, what they may need to do to make sure they are as successful as possible when it comes to securing employment, in particular if it's in the US. And again, if students are trying to pursue home country opportunities, that's where an individual advising session would be helpful.
Great. I have a question about this presentation and being recorded. The answer is yes. It will be posted to our YouTube channel and our website within 24 hours. At the conclusion, also, if you would like to receive a copy of these presentation slides, just email us, parents@gatech.edu. Great question here. How does studying abroad help with potential employers, and especially that competitive formula that you were just talking about earlier?
I count that towards experience as well. So that particular slide is not necessarily to be indicative of every single type of experience. So study abroad can absolutely be helpful. And sometimes when you're studying abroad, there may be opportunities to intern abroad at the same time or gain other hands-on experience. So absolutely extremely valuable. That's something we do promote to students, again, as an option. We've even seen some students pursue study abroad their first year, second semester. You've got GT Lorraine. So sometimes that can even be a good opportunity for students this summer after their sophomore year, say if they want to pursue an internship or something else summer after junior year. So it really comes down to sequencing and timing. My only word of caution is that I'm finding that many employers are backing up their recruiting timelines to be a little bit more heavy in the fall. If they don't source all of the talent that they're looking for, they're continuing to, recruit through career fairs, other initiatives in the spring. So if you're studying abroad and you're towards that fall junior year, for certain industries, that's when they recruit, and they may or may not come back in the spring. So that fall junior year, I'm always very cautious and encourage students who want to study abroad to look before they do that and kind of make sure that there won't be potential conflict there, if at all possible.
Great. I think the $1 million question we have here from one parent, from a parent perspective, any suggestions on how to encourage our students to come to your office?
Oh, if you can figure it out, if you could tell us what that special formula is, that's the formula I want you to communicate back to me. So that's why we really emphasize being involved in GT 1000, because students have to go to class. Unfortunately, they don't have to come see us. They have to get academic advising. They do not have to come to the Career Center. Again, it is, trust me, for 15 years, I've been fighting this uphill battle, and I wish there was a way that I could require it or make it more essential that students have to do it. So really, that's part of the reason why I'm here today. And I'm such a big fan of parents and families, because you have a level of influence that I do not have with your student, where I can present in Facet, I can go into classrooms, I can offer all the workshops under the sun, but I can't make them to show up. But, encouraging them to do it, maybe asking, hey, did you schedule that yet? What did you learn from it? Here's something really interesting I learned about today. I don't know if I have a 4-year-old daughter, so I incentivize with candy. I guess that probably doesn't work with college students, but I don't know if there are any other incentives, or again, everybody's relationship is different. But just encouraging, following through, and seeing if you can convince them to go. And again, if you have suggestions or ideas, again, $1 million question, as Tyler put it, I am always all ears. Would love to meet as many of your students as possible.
Yeah. Laura, just off chance, do you have any statistics about students who interact with your office and their probability to land a job, internship, or co-op, or are you all kind of tracking that to a certain extent?
We're tracking a variety of different metrics. So we do measure, the number of students that come out to our workshop. We measure the number of students that are coming in for appointments, as well as advising satisfaction. I wish we were to the point where we had a dashboard. We don't quite have that level of sophistication, but we have a variety of different metrics and levels that we measure. But that's a really interesting question. We do have good data for students that do register their internships with us, that do register. Well, they have to register co-ops, otherwise they won't stay enrolled here at Georgia Tech. But great question. Great question. We've got, if you go to career.godtech.edu, we publish this for employers because it has a lot of salary data. We just published our new recruiting guide. That can give you a good sense of some of our metrics and numbers that would be helpful for you to be aware of. But if there are specific numbers you're curious about, again, feel free to email me and I can investigate, because I don't know all of the metrics offhand that we put out through all of our channels. In full disclosure, I'm still relatively new. I started in February of last year, and I know we'll be getting through my first full cycle 2021, 2022. And we're doing a variety of new initiatives that we didn't previously do. So if you have specific data points you'd like for me to share with you, please feel free, shoot those over to me, and I'll see what I can do to follow up.
Great. And I asked that question because I think with students, they care so much about the end goal and, the salary and just the level of job they can get. And I think if we as parents and families can continue to encourage our students to, you view the Career Center as your friend, as your cheat sheet, to kind of help you get to where you want to go, a free and great resource who can kind of coach you and, walk you through the process. I think that's another great way to kind of help students come to the office and utilize the resources.
I appreciate your partnership and encouraging students, because I do like to think of our office this way. We are here to support. Our whole goal is your students' end goal. And, we've worked with a lot of students over the years and have heard great insights from employers and what they're seeking, how to market themselves. And students are paying to be at Georgia Tech, and they're paying a lot to access a lot of resources. And it's easy to get stuck in the, just flow of what's going on, where I'm just going to class, I've got all these projects. As a college student, you have so many things going on. So really, that's why I think parents and families are so essential to just say, hey, I know you've got this big project and exams are coming up, midterms. Remember that long-term goal of why you're in college? You want a great career, right? Have you done this yet? Are you aware of this? Sometimes you need that person in your life to just go, hey, time out. There's some people that can help you with that. So thank you all in advance for being a great partner with our office. I appreciate your time. I know we're probably right at the end of time, but if there are additional questions that weren't addressed during the session, please do feel free to reach out to me. Happy to follow up.
Yes. Thank you so much for everything. I did see a question about, should first years go to the career fair? Absolutely. That is something that's highly encouraged, for internships, co-ops, or even just the practice and experience. So I highly encourage you to do that. As Laura said, please feel free to reach out to her, reach out to our office if you would like for us to connect you. And without further ado, just like to say thank you for joining us. This will be recorded and posted to our YouTube channel. If you need the slides, email our office, parents@gatech.edu, and go Jackets, and have a good day.
All right. Thank you all.